Hi, so the first thing that we're going to do in order to get our heads around how to make some quick render settings in V-Ray and render an architectural exterior image, we're first going to get acquainted with where all of the V-Ray settings are located in Rhino and also how to set up a quick camera. So when you've installed V-Ray, you'll get the V-Ray toolbar. But first of all, you have to check that V-Ray is in fact activated as the default render. So you go to Toolbars and Render and go down to Current Renderer, and it says Rhino Render here. You want to check V-Ray. So that should activate all of these options here. Now just to quickly go over what these are, just starting from the left, this one gives you the materials window, which is something like this. There's nothing there. That'll be another video. The options. This is where all of the parameters for V-Ray are located. And it's quite a heavy window. So we'll get into that later. This is the frame buffer. This is to launch the V-Ray preview window. This is the render command. So whenever you want to get a render out of V-Ray using the current settings, you click this. And this will begin to render whatever you're seeing in the window. Then there's a V-Ray real-time render, which is a really, really quick render of low quality, which you can use to check render settings. But it's by no means a final quality. But it's a really useful tool. Next, you can add an infinite plane to create a horizon. Sun settings, which is where you set realistic sun angles according to region. All of the V-Ray lights are accessible through here. A V-Ray proxy menu, which is actually a really cool tool, but we're not going to go into this here because it's a bit more advanced. And a help button. And finally, this is for setting cameras, which is really important. We're going to look at it later. So that's the V-Ray toolbar. And we're going to go through this step by step. But for the moment, it's just important that you know where it is. So we've got our file here. Which is this building. And it's quite important that our building is set up in such a way that the materials within a layer, the objects within a layer, all have the same material. So say all of the glazing is in one same layer. That's going to make it really, really easy for us to assign materials by layers. Otherwise, if you've got different materials set within the same layer, then you're going to have to assign them individually, and it's a nightmare. So one material by layer. So when you want to create a proper architectural camera, you want to be able to manipulate the view very precisely. And the way that you spin around a view normally is not really the way to do this. So the first thing that we want to do is to show the camera. Actually, no, the first thing that we want to do is enter the correct settings. Now here in perspective, you right-click this, and in this long list, actually sort of out of view, is the viewport properties. You can't see it because it's out of the window, but you go all the way to the bottom, it says viewport properties, and that gives you this window. Now for a normal architectural view, you're going to want a 2-point perspective, a lens length of 18 millimeters. That's just somewhat standard. And that's going to change See, now all of the verticals are parallel. And that's really important for a professional architectural render. Now, you want to be able to place this camera very precisely at eye level. So you can't really do that comfortably using normal navigation tools. And so what you have to do is type in camera, click show, and make sure the perspective view or your current view, the view that you want, is selected. And that will make the camera visible as an object. So you can see the camera has appeared here. And when I click this point, then I can move it like any other object in Rhino to a very precise height that I've set. So I just go to the right view and I can set the exact height for it. So what I can do is just take it to 0. And then move this up to about 1.60 meters is useful. So you can actually see it in the bottom left. You can see the height at which it's at. Okay, so now, if we go back to our perspective, then we've got this sorted out at eye level. And in order to then change the target, what we want to do is press Ctrl and Alt at the same time. Don't press anything else because otherwise you'll start moving the point. Press Ctrl and Alt and then right click, and now you can start to pan around to compose the view. The very last thing you might want to do is change the height of the target point. So you select that here. You can make sure that it's one in the middle. You have 2 camera points when you select it from the top. You can see it's changing between a point on top and a point at the center. You want to select the center point and then move that up. Okay, that was a bit too much. Okay, so it's actually probably easier if you remove object snaps. And that's sort of what we want. So that's our view. And again, you can Ctrl Alt to fine tune and place it at the center of the view and so on. But that's what we want to save. So how do we save it? Again, right click here under perspective or the viewport name, go to set view, and I think that's out of the window, but all the way to the bottom is an option called named views. That'll bring up this window. That's where all of the views that you've saved are located. You can see that we haven't named any. It's actually really useful if you just take this tab and place it next to your properties and layers. So now whenever you want to save a view, you can just go to here, click Save As, View 1, and there it is. You can move anywhere you want, and whenever you double click this, you've come back. So that's the view that we want to render out. So it's really important to manage your views and know all of the settings to create a proper architectural view, because there are certain rules like I mentioned. But the basic rule of 18 millimeters with the 2-point perspective will give you good results usually. Okay, so next lesson, we'll start looking at the settings that are going to make this look good.